Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It
Oh, my
Tuesday. I'm Georgette. I'm the mom.
And I'm TJ. I'm the nipple, the son.
Oh, geez. And we both work and study in the field of psychology, and we are passionate about sharing what we know with you so that you can live your best life. Speaking of best life, so we're going to talk about play today. Play is considered a fun, imaginative, relaxed, or self-defined activity.
I like that.
Some qualities play includes self-chosen, removed in some way from real life, which I think is an interesting concept, and then governed by a set of rules determined by the players rather than an outside source.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'd say that those would be the 3 rules. Yeah.
All right, types of play. You probably don't think about the types of plays, but there are types of plays.
That's freaking me out right now. Let's do it.
Fantasy.
Of course.
Pretend.
Okay.
Physical.
Yeah. Okay.
Locomotor, which is like chasing or fighting.
Okay.
Constructive,
course,
which is building or creating things.
Mm-hmm.
Language play, which is like inventing words or languages. And then games with rules.
Okay. Cool. I like that. Yeah. Okay. I never thought about the different definitions or the
we don't
aspects
think about it. But when I was thinking about you as a kid, you did all of those. Like I can actually envision all those different types of things. Like I imagine there's some kids that focus more on one type of play than another, but you were pretty well rounded in terms of types of play.
But you need those playful aspects.
Absolutely.
Right? You need to adaptively develop these playful aspects because as we all know, it's a little bit easier to get to a point where you don't feel as playful as you used to be. So that's why we talk a lot about consciously utilizing certain behaviors because we know that it'll put you in an environment that will produce better thoughts and emotions just based off adaptation, right? So when you put yourself in these playful scenarios, when you consciously continue to utilize them, it becomes a little bit easier for it to be utilized on a long-term basis, right?
Right. So why is play important? I'm going to give you lots of reasons, but there's even tons more probably.
I'll hit you with the first one because it is one of a few things that really separates us from animals. Right?
Yes.
It is something that, wait, what are we talking about again?
Play.
Yeah, I know. What point was I making?
That it's kind of, that we're separate from animals in that way.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm going to keep on going and see where I can go.
Probably because...
no, I got you now. Because it's something that, like I won't going back to, adaptively, you have to put this into your scenarios because it's a little bit easier for us to fall into a pattern where our behaviors aren't necessarily automatically going towards a playful aspect. It's something that we have to adaptively do so that it can improve because in terms of that animalistic side of our brain, it does constitute for about 70 to 80% of the thoughts that we have within the day. So we have to put yourself in an environment that creates more safety, creates more playful because it activates the aspects of the brain that separates us from the animal, the consciousness that allows us the choice, whereas animals don't necessarily have as much of a choice, right? So playing is choosing to unlock the part of your consciousness that really separates us from the animals.
That's true. Yeah. So why play is important. Unstructured play especially stimulates mental flexibility and creativity, just unstructured.
Neuroplasticity, the likelihood of your brain having resilient and more thought process in different situations.
It enables us to step out of our comfort zones, so fosters some innovation and creativity again.
Comfort zone, going back to animalistic, you are going to stay in your comfort zone. You are going to mark your territory. You are going to do all these things unless you playfully put yourself out there because we're in an environment where we don't have to worry about as many dangers as animals. So get out there, play, and utilize some more adaptive thoughts to separate us from that of animals. Boom! Da-da-da!
It encourages use of our listening and thinking skills, stimulates the growth of neural connections. You mentioned that earlier. Boosts cognitive functioning, especially the pretend type of play. Improves empathy and compassion, social responsivity, and improved emotional regulation. I think this is huge. We have to work together as adults. We have to know how we learn how to do that is playing together as kids, right? You learn to be in tune with somebody's reaction when you're playing a game. If they're frustrated, you learn through that play how to bring them back in so that they're having fun again.
Social exposure in an environment where you're most likely going to take it in as biologically advantageous as possible. So while you're playing and you get put through some of these difficult scenarios like adversity, you start to develop a little bit easier time and pathways towards that of resiliency.
You learn to share. You learn all types of emotional regulation strategies through play. And oftentimes that's where we see in children where it actually breaks down when they don't handle it well. You're like, okay, something we need to focus on, something we need to work on. Play also helps us relieve stress and helps us express ourselves and know others better. It creates a unity, right? So in children in particular, we talked about the fact that it promotes social and emotional growth. It helps emotional growth, helps them to learn as they explore the world, right? But also what it does is it helps create independence, lets them learn their likes and their dislikes, helps them hone their friendship skills and practice life skills at the same time.
Yeah, constantly putting you in an environment where you're actually going to have a good idea of what you want as opposed to the more animalistic part of your brain. Right. Yes, it's going to make it easier to subconsciously create a better narrative of what's going on around you and what is even already taking place.
Yeah, the studies show children who take breaks at school come back to the classroom with more focus and attention. And I can even say that when I take breaks at work, the same thing happens to me.
About to change your life right now.
Yeah.
The best thing that we can do in terms of fun or activity, one thing to help lead to it is every single hour. If you know that if you find yourself sitting or laying down for an hour, you should get up. I mean, at the very least, stand up and sit back down to get the blood flow to activate some of those neural resources that you're talking about. So, gosh, I forgot where I was going with that again.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cool. Well, that was a good point, I think, so keep going.
I think you made it. The interesting thing about play, though, when we become adults is we often, instead of incorporating it into a natural part of our day, use it as like a reward or motivation. Yes. Like, if I do this, I will do that.
Oh, and I remember now.
Yeah.
So every hour you should be getting up and doing something, utilizing it as a reward, unless you're saying, I'm going to sit here for 8 hours because I want to rest. But it typically doesn't happen. You typically do 1 hour of it, and then you just kind of stay because you get comfortable. So every hour you should be like, can I get up and do something? Do some type of stretch, walk and touch the wall and come back, or just get something flowing or do a couple of squats. Because if you don't constantly put in the areas to play, your brain's not going to create those opportunities for you on its own.
Right. Play protects the adult brain by improving cognitive flexibility and memory.
Of course.
Here's an interesting point. It makes us less threatening if we're playful, which I think is interesting and fun to think about.
I think I'm a good example of that.
Yes, you are. It reduces stress, promotes optimism, and provides for new perspectives. So that's just a couple of additional benefits as an adult. How we can increase play in our lives. We can take different routes, go to new locations. Both of those open up our imaginations. Like you said, build unstructured time into your schedule.
Well, yeah, cognitive stimulation, reading, any type of art therapy, musical type of therapy, journaling, meditation, any type of physical activity, which is one of the easiest ways to, consciously create the feeling of joy and excitement and stuff. So, and that kind of goes into all this stuff is going to make it easier for the brain to identify more excitement and joy by consciously putting these into your life.
Right. Look for humor in everyday situations.
That's an adaptive thought process because if your immediate thought is going to be anger, you're going to continue to facilitate really unhelpful thoughts that's not going to be helpful towards the situation, and body sensations aren't going to be good. So you have to consciously identify that and realize that when you implement it, it's going to be hard and you're going to get emotions and body sensations pointing in the opposite direction, but continuously implementing that and utilizing it is going to give the brain all the evidence that it's going to adapt or it needs to adapt to it because you're continuously putting in through the stressors or the threatening situation that's in the body.
Be spontaneous and agree to unplanned activities.
Wait, just say yes. Just say yes.
Say yes. How to fill that unstructured time. So Aristotle said we should be able not only to work well, but to use leisure well.
Yeah. Leisure well. One of my favorite quotes there is like, boredom is simply the absence of purpose. Because if you ask any of the providers I work with, what are you doing over the weekend? We're like this. We're like, nothing. So we'll be bored quite often, but it's something that is either subconsciously or consciously identified that this weekend is going to help us recover from the week. When you work hard, that leisure time and that boredom becomes easier and you feel more deserving and worthy of doing some of these things. So once again, it goes back to utilizing self-care acts and playfulness as a necessary coping skill to get to where you want to get to, because typically these are things that fall by the wayside because we put it in so much more bigger issues, but it's just the environment. It's not playful enough.
Declines in the frequency of our leisure activities is associated with depression, lower well-being, and with the later diagnosis of dementia. So really important. And I've got a few ideas, categories for adult leisure activities.
Oh, this would be fun. Let me give examples. Maybe if I can think of one for each one for myself. This will be fun.
Physical. That's the first category.
Just recently signed up for a new gym. Stay very active. We just went hiking. We went walking. We go weightlifting, heavy. I mean, all types of activity all the time.
Crafts.
What's the first one? Woodworking. What I just recently do, buy wood to start whittling. So boom with crafts. I'm sure kombucha I would say be craft, but anyways, continue.
Games.
Mixed martial arts, sports. I watch those a lot and I enjoy it. And I got Sudoku and color by
Happy
number.
color.
And I got a puzzle app now. There you go. What's next?
Watching TV.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes.
Then there's a
try not to do too much.
There's a category called social private. And that is being social, but in a small group, like going out with a friend.
See, I tend to do this least amount because I get so much social connectedness. So I need to consciously do more of this. But yeah, I would say this would be one of my lesser.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I struggle with that one too. Social public. That would be, again, being social, but in a bigger group, like attending a club meeting or volunteering.
Oh, volunteer. Well, I haven't done a little bit, but I'm looking to get back into that.
Religious. That would be like attending a religious service or just even pray or meditation.
Yeah, praying, of course, meditation.
You don't have to go to church necessarily.
Or just already some level of a conscious thing to keep in the forefront of your mind. What would Jesus do, and so on and so forth. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could be an alternative thought process.
Travel.
28 countries total.
Yeah.
You do the math.
Experiential. And this would be those crafts that, or these hobbies.
Oh, I do terrible at that. Is that, it's kind of building?
They kind of lead to, they include, I think how they really
like
separate
memories.
Others is they include a cognitive component.
Like memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're collecting stamps, reading, making memories.
I think kombucha would fall under that
probably
category.
What that would probably fall more so into, yeah.
Developmental, these would be things like doing some self-improvement stuff.
Like I don't watch psychology videos all day long.
Right. And technology use. And this is not just, getting on your game and using your computer, but anything that's kind of technical, like photography or even learning to play an instrument.
Keyboard.
Yeah.
Trying to build that. It's been a while, but I've been implementing that.
Those are several different categories of leisure that you can build into your day. And some you may be doing, and some activities might fall under quite a few. Like I crochet, that would fall under crafting and experiential. And I hike, that would fall under physical and social private, because we do that together. So you might be doing several of these categories in one activity.
And here's the cool thing. Only one of them realistically has to work. Some people have one of these and it works. A little bit harder to sustain. And if you get all of them, once again, it just undoubtedly puts you into a scenario where your brain and your emotions are going to have to be improved. If you pick one thing to do here and you do this maybe weekly, I think daily would be difficult. For those of you who are new, I still think I do almost every single one of those daily.
Yes.
So it's something that it leaves no doubt in terms of feeling better, allowing your body to feel better, right? Like one of the most consistent things in terms of the study of happiness is if you get more sunlight, you have to be happier. You freaking have to be. It's nature.
Travel's the only one you don't do on a daily basis.
But you can do.
Right, you can
on a daily basis.
But I'm giving you a little out on that one.
Or what if you take different routes? Is that traveling abroad?
I think if you try different restaurants, experiences.
Routes.
No, but you could do different restaurants too.
Of course.
So one thing I think is interesting about this leisure activities is studies show that the more of these you do in your 20s, the more you'll do later on in life, like when you're a senior. So don't be waiting. I'm going to wait till I retire to do all this stuff. You have to be doing it now because the odds are that you're going to pick up a piano and play it in your 70s is not high unless you've started doing it in your 20s.
You are constructing those pathways right at this very second today, utilizing today to change the trajectory for the rest of your life. What habits are you adaptively building because you are not going to do it accidentally?
Right.
Cool.
All right, so this week, stop thinking about unstructured time as wasted or undeserved. To be intentional about carving out some time. Yes, and embrace some leisure activities into this each day. Have a great week. We will talk to you. Let's next talk about it Tuesday.
Spider-Man.